Welcome to Preve. I'm Caelum, and I've been a physio for 13 years. I've owned physio clinics for 10 years, I've published academic research, and on many occasions I've been a patient myself. And from all of these insights across different vantage points of our industry, I've now built Preve. I created Preve for 3 reasons. First, I hated doing admin like notes, letters, and reports. Second, I found creating rehab programs from generic exercise libraries like PhysioTrack really clunky, time-consuming, and not patient-specific. And third, I wanted all of my patients to get the best possible outcomes by having visibility over their recovery, coming to all of their recommended appointments, and doing their home rehab consistently. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through how Preve works and show you how it specifically solves each of these pain points. It's a longer form video, but I strongly recommend watching it all the way through, as it will ensure that you get the most out of the product. And I promise that investing a few minutes now will save you hours every week into the future. So let's dive in. Your dashboard will look different depending on whether or not you've connected your practice management system like Clinico or Nucal. We do have separate videos on how to connect these. So if you do use Clinico or Nucal and haven't yet connected them, head to the integrations tab and follow the instructions there. So let's start by walking through how to start a new session in Preve. If you've connected Clinico or Nucal, then you can simply start a session by finding the next patient in your schedule and clicking Start Session. And if you don't have an integrated account, then you can simply start a session by creating a new patient, which is simply their name and their phone number, or searching for an existing patient that you've previously put into the system. You can also search for existing patients to start a session on down below your schedule. So let's show you now how to run a session in Preve. When you land on the new session page, the first thing you'll notice is your AI Assistant checklist on the right-hand side of the screen. This surfaces really important information from your last consultation with your patient. It will have things like your most recent outcome measures, the exercises that you've recently prescribed that need reviewing, and it even has more social cues, like reminding you to check on a recent party or restaurant that they told you they were going to in your last appointment. If it's your first time seeing a patient using Preve, then the list here will be a default set of questions. But from that moment forward, it will have specific and relevant content related to that particular patient. Now, as you're talking to your patient throughout the consult, these items will automatically be marked as green as Preve hears you speaking about them. You can click here to read a little bit more insight into each item, and you can of course hide it if necessary. Below this, you'll see all of your historical clinical notes, a quick review so that you're orientated before starting the session. Before you start recording the session to allow transcription, it's really important that you get consent from your patient. Using language such as, I'm using an automated note taker so that I don't have to type, is that okay with you? Is a really simple way to get consent. And we also recommend having a tick box on patient intake forms so that that's documented. You can pause recording and resume recording at any point throughout your session. If your first session in Preve with a patient is a follow-up session, which it quite likely will be for the first few weeks of using Preve, then it's really important to give Preve as much context as possible. In an initial consult, you would naturally be discussing things like the diagnosis and the cause of injury and lots of specifics around their condition and the treatment, but in follow-up sessions, this may not typically happen in as much detail. And so to ensure that Preve has as much context as possible, it's always a good idea to discuss the diagnosis and the cause of the injury with your patient in those follow-up sessions, or you can type their diagnosis and a little bit about their injury into the text box before they come in, just so that when you generate a treatment plan, all of that historical context from the initial consultation is known to Preve, so it will generate a much more comprehensive treatment plan, clinical notes, and document for you. It's also really important to verbalize your assessment findings and treatment out loud so that Preve knows exactly what's going on in the session. This can be done really naturally by simply explaining to your patient what you're assessing, the outcomes of that assessment, and similarly when you're treating them, just explaining the techniques that you're using. And you'll actually find that patients really appreciate this level of insight, and it gets to showcase your expertise as you're treating them. It's worth noting that if the transcript hasn't reached 100% of its minimum word count, then you won't be able to generate clinical notes or a treatment plan because there's not enough context. So ensure that your transcript is at 100%, and if you haven't recorded the session, for example, if a patient has declined to be recorded, and you're therefore using the typed notes section instead of recording to capture content, then there needs to be a minimum of 200 characters in order to generate your treatment plan or finish your session. But if you're recording, then there is no minimum text required. Now, let's move on to treatment plan creation. Down here, you'll see a button saying Generate Treatment Plan. When you click that, you'll start to stream a new treatment plan if one does not exist, or you'll be updating your existing treatment plan with the new content from today's session if there is a treatment plan that already exists for this patient. You'll notice that I can generate a treatment plan without stopping the recording, and this is useful to do so that whilst I'm reviewing the treatment plan with my patient, if we have any further conversations or make changes to the plan, that will be captured by the transcription so that the clinical notes at the end are accurate and up to date. So let's generate the plan. And you'll see we're updating an existing treatment plan for this patient, Alex. The treatment plan is built based on your consultation with the patient, and it uses all of the context and transcription from your session, and it fills all of the relevant sections with the information from your session. So let's run through the various sections of the treatment plan together. First, we have a note for our patient. Now this will auto-generate with some motivating language and a quick summary of what's changed within this session. You can also change the style from casual to neutral to formal here. Next, we have our condition overview, which highlights the diagnosis, expected recovery times, a little bit about the anatomy and function, the pathology, and the healing process, and namely why therapy is important. This section provides real clarity for the patient around their condition, how it's happened, and how physio or rehab is going to help them recover. Next, we have the patient goals. And this is driven from that discussion that you've had with your patient around why it is they've come in for treatment and what's the guiding star that is going to keep them motivated all the way through their treatment. Next are the progress measures. These are broken down into things like range of motion, strength, and function. Any important measures that have been taken within the session will be reflected here. They are displayed in terms of the current result, the next milestone within the next few weeks, and the end goal for that particular outcome measure. We then have the recommended appointment schedule. This will be displayed based on the conversation you've had with your patient around the expected recovery time, the frequency of your sessions, and the focus of each phase. The focus is really important because it gives the patient clarity over why it's important to come to their sessions. If you haven't specifically discussed timeframes, frequency, or a focus during the session, then Preve will make recommendations based on the diagnosis, the patient context, and you can always make edits, like in all of the sections, if you want to tweak the language here. I find this section really important for ensuring the patient has a crystal clear recovery roadmap in front of them, and they know exactly how many sessions they need to book over what time frame and what the importance of each phase is going to be. Next, we have our exercises. Our home rehab section will take the specific exercise and instructions that we've discussed with our patient from within the session and create a really clear, easy to follow list of instructions of how they should be doing the exercise, including the frequency, sets and reps, instructions, and why the exercise is important for their rehab. You can paste links to external videos here, and soon Preve will be delivering the ability for you to film your patients doing their exercises in real time and also generate images with your specific instructions. Next, we have cross-training activities, which are things that you've encouraged your patient to do in order to stay fit, active, and maybe sane while they recover from their injury. And then lastly, we have tasks, do's, and don'ts, which are things you've instructed your patient to do or avoid during this recovery period. It's worth noting that Preve occasionally makes recommendations if key important information is missing from the session. For example, if you forget to tell your patient how many sets or reps of an exercise to do, Preve may fill in the blanks with a recommendation. Editing your treatment plan couldn't be more simple. All you do is click on a section and edit in real time. You can also quickly and simply remove whole sections by clicking the X on the top right. So that's the treatment plan. It may feel like quite a lot of content at first when you generate a new plan, but as I mentioned at the start of the treatment plan section, when you update existing treatment plans, it will highlight just the updated sections. So rather than having to review the whole plan every time, you can just go to the sections that have been highlighted in orange, making it super quick. And like all of the outputs that Preve generates, there's a section down the bottom to give us feedback. This is important because the feedback that we receive on things like treatment plans, notes, and letters helps us train the model to act more like you want it to. So once you've finished reviewing the treatment plan with your patient and making any edits that are required, then you can simply finish the session. So Preve is now generating my clinical notes. It's also generating the patient's version of the treatment plan. And if you've clicked Finish Session before generating a treatment plan, then you still have the ability to regenerate it after you have finished the session. At this point, we would normally review our clinical notes and create any documents or letters, but we're going to come back to that because I want to show you the final steps of sending a treatment plan to your patient first. So let's jump ahead and click Save and Send, which is going to save this session, but also send the treatment plan to my patient. If I don't want to send it right now, then I can simply save the session and then come back and send the plan later. So let's click Save and Send. And that is now going to send the treatment plan to my patient via SMS. Now, let's say I have a patient who doesn't have a smartphone or would prefer to receive the treatment plan via another format. You've got other options. So you can simply click Send Treatment Plan via email. That will email them a PDF copy of the treatment plan. Alternatively, you can download it as a PDF, which you could then print for them. So the patient receives their treatment plan straight to their phone via a link, which is protected by a one-time password. In their treatment plan, they'll be able to review all of the content that you've just generated and reviewed on your practitioner platform. So they can see their note from you, an overview of their condition with some anatomy, understanding the healing process and the expected recovery time. They can review all of their exercises that you've prescribed, including the detailed instructions and the importance of why they should be doing it. They can see their approved activities, their do's and don'ts. They've got their overarching goal, as well as their individual outcome measures. And for the patient, that is displayed in terms of where they're at today and what's the next milestone that they need to achieve. Now, this is really important for adherence, motivation, and compliance to both their home exercises and their upcoming appointment schedule. And lastly, they've got their recommended appointments, again, displaying how many sessions they need to book and what is the focus of this phase of treatment. Lastly, they have a quick summary of their most recent sessions with you. So let's come back to our session with the patient. The clinical note generation will be based on what you have selected during the session, whether it's an initial, follow-up, a standard or general template type, or more of a specialist template type. If you don't change this prior to ending the session, then that's okay. You can always change it once you're on this page here. You also have the ability to change the level of detail or brevity of your sessions. By changing between small, medium, and large, you're not cutting out important content, you're simply moving between a version that has more abbreviations and shorthand and one that is more long, full sentences. So once you have selected your desired output length and reviewed your clinical notes, you can then save your session. Again, you can either save and send the treatment plan at the same time. In this example, let's save our session without sending the treatment plan. So you'll see here that the clinical notes will automatically save to Clinico if you have an integrated Clinico account. If you're using Nucal, you will need to manually tap the Save to Nucal button. And if you're using an account without an integration into a practice management system, then you will simply copy and then paste those into your practice management system. Your most recent session in Preve is still editable. And so if you come back here, make changes to your clinical notes and then save again, that will be updated automatically in Clinico. And if you're using Nucal, then those changes will need to be manually pushed by, again, selecting the little button once those notes get generated here. So now let's go back into the session and I'll show you how to create letters and documents. So to create a document, click the button here and you can then select from one of our off-the-shelf templates, such as a referral letter, an imaging request, letter back to referrer, a progress update, or a condition and capacity report for either a coach or an employer. You can also select whether you want brief, standard, or a detailed output type. So let's create a standard length referral letter. So as that generates, it will generate not only on today's consultation, but based on context from all of the relevant sessions that you've had with your patient across time, which is really important. Any unknown content, such as the doctor's name, their address, or if you don't have the date of birth of the patient set up in the system, these will be listed as red, meaning that you have to update them before finishing the letter. Once you've reviewed and you're happy with the output, give it some feedback, and then you have a couple of different options in terms of how this content gets sent to the right person. Firstly, you can copy the content and then paste it into whichever system you would normally use to send letters to doctors. Alternatively, you can download the letter as a PDF and then send it as an email. And soon, you'll be able to add a letterhead to your letters and send straight from Preve. So once you've finished generating your documents and letters, again, you can simply save your session. The patient's profile page has everything you need to know about your patient. It has all of the historical clinical notes, the upcoming appointments, the patient's treatment plan, and any documents that you've created for the patient. You can always come back here later, create extra documents, download letters or documents that you've created, resend the plan to your patients, or make edits to your previous session's clinical notes by going and editing your most recent session. If you need to make changes to your patient's personal details, such as their phone number or email address, then if you use a connected Clinico or Nucal account, you should do this from within your practice management system. If you're not using an integrated account, then you can make those changes straight from the patient's profile here. And so you now know the basics of Preve. My suggestion is that you create a fake patient profile with your own phone number attached, run a couple of dummy sessions, and send yourself some treatment plans so that you can see exactly what the patient experience is like. It's also a really good idea to run a couple of practice sessions with some colleagues so that you can get used to the system before using it with real patients. At the start of this video, I spoke about why I built Preve. Too much admin, exercise program tooling that wasn't patient specific and was really time consuming, and the really high rates of patient dropout in our industry before they complete their fully prescribed treatment plan. So hopefully what you've just seen is how we've been able to solve all of that. Automating all of your clinical notes and letters, creating treatment plans in a single click that create better patient compliance and really helps them to stick all the way through to their rehab, come to all of their appointments and recover properly, and exercise prescription that is done seamlessly in real time and individualized to your patient. Before we finish, I'm just going to show you a couple of final functional things in the back end. If you want to see your schedule beyond just today and tomorrow's appointments, then you can do so here. And you can always refresh or resync your Clinico or Nucal integration by clicking this button here. You can also review your most recent sessions in the Sessions tab. From here, you can add additional clinic workspaces if you work for more than one business. You've also got the ability to add practitioners. Again, if you have an integrated account with Clinico or Nucal, your whole team will be displayed here and you can invite them in a single click. Or if you're not using an integrated account, then you can create a new team member down here. The Integrations tab is where you connect your Clinico or Nucal account, and you can also decide whether your notes are automatically pushed to Clinico or whether you do that manually. And lastly, you can manage your billing from within the billing page, including updating payment details or pausing your subscription. So thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end. If you ever have questions, please reach out directly, and please leave feedback in all of the clinical notes, treatment plans, and documents that you create, because it will help us shape the product and turn it into a better and better version that works for you.